Hello everyone, this is Catherine from Millennials in Motion magazine. This is our 10th episode of Conversations with the Community, and today I am sitting with Stacy Chapter of Project 150. How are you doing today, Stacy?
I'm doing good.
Share a little bit about yourself and what got you interested in helping disadvantaged youth.
So I am the Community Outreach Manager for Project 150. I started about 4 years ago. I had seen an article in the newspaper regarding this organization. My daughter was hitting high school, and I thought this would be something we could volunteer at together because it would give her a bigger picture of when kids are mean, we don't have to knee-jerk back. And the job came up for volunteer coordinator, and I was already here, so I took that. And now I've moved up to the community outreach manager.
What is your job like on your day-to-day and what you do?
So I still handle the volunteers, so as they come in, I make sure that everybody's assigned a task because there's nothing worse than volunteering and not feeling useful or appreciated. So the day is kind of pretty much lined up with getting volunteers busy and tasks and the work done and parceling it out to the people that can handle each job, whether it's administrative, filing, inventorying a donation, hanging clothes, stocking the boutique. And then as community events come up, I go out to the community and I speak about Project 150 to community organizations, back to school fairs, pretty much wherever we're invited that makes sense for us.
You're a busy lady. What's the hardest thing about your work?
Knowing the issues that are out there, knowing how few resources there are for this age group. So to back it up a little bit, Project 150 provides basic necessities to high school students to remain in school through graduation. Because of the age group, there's not a lot of resources for them in need. So making sure that they have whatever they need is always the challenge.
And what do you love most about the work that you're doing?
I'm a people person, so connecting with people, working with the volunteers. I work with a lot of other organizations, so if we get something that doesn't work for high school students, I can, for example, children's clothes. We work with Whitney Elementary, which is a high-risk elementary school. We work with Street Teens, which is another organization that works with teens, different community that work with different parts of the homeless if something doesn't make sense for our students. So just being able to connect those resources and putting the puzzle pieces together so that we're helping more people is a huge blessing and satisfying, and nothing goes to waste, and you know that you're working in the community to make it better.
That's awesome. I love it. What is the organization's mission and how did it come about?
So it started in 2011 with a news story, much like I started. A couple of businessmen here in town who were locals and part of the Las Vegas community for a long time, they had seen a news story that was done on Rancho High School. At the time, the librarian had noticed there were some students that she never saw eating. They were always in the library. And when they investigated, they found out there was about 150 students without resources. So that's how we got our name. They call it their accidental charity because they thought they'd do something for the holidays and call it a day. But then as they started looking at the problem, they realized the need was much bigger. So from there, we are now in all CCSD high schools. We just had our 8th anniversary, and last year we served the needs of 6,600 homeless, displaced, and disadvantaged high school students.
Wow, that's amazing. You guys do a lot. How far is the organization's reach? Is it just Las Vegas?
So we're Nevada. So we have a very small office up in Reno.
Okay.
So we do have a Project 150 Reno up there. In fact, we were able to help when they had that explosion up there at the hall, because we do have some students that attend up there. We have a scholarship program, so we do have students that attend Reno. But down here is Southern Nevada is actually really where the bulk of the mission is. Southern Nevada is unique in that it leads the nation in unaccompanied, unsheltered youth. We have more kids on the street in Southern Nevada alone than California or New York, which have higher populations.
Wow, I did not know that. How do they gather that data?
So Title I Hope is through the schools. They have collected data for population of the homeless. We have a huge human trafficking problem in Las Vegas, so getting resources to the students is very important because there are things that you will turn to when you're hungry and cold that you wouldn't do normally on a day. So that is what we try and do, is keep them in school. Our lane is our providing basic necessities to high school students. So we anchor all of our services to the school. We want the students to remain in high school, but we want to provide them with food, hygiene, school supplies, and clothing. We also handle the caps and gowns. Any special requests for students that need cap and gowns, we handle that. We basically start in January with our scholarship program. So this year we awarded 51 students $130,000, which is where those students from Reno came from. And then we roll into our prom closet. We believe that it's a rite of passage and not a luxury. So we have over 5,000 gowns for the ladies. Zappos will host it for us, but that merchandise is what we distribute to the students. We have suits, tuxedos, shoes, handbags, jewelry. We use about 400 volunteers on that day, getting students everything they need for prom: barbers, manicurists, hairstylists, seamstress. Yeah, so it's a big event. Then we do our back to school. We'll service about 2,000 high school students in August, giving them everything they need for back to school in very sturdy backpacks. And then we do our holiday meal program. So we just distributed 2,000 for Thanksgiving. Those boxes are turkeys with all the fixings delivered directly to the schools. And each of those boxes is spoken for. We get those names from the counselors. And then we'll do another 2,000 for Christmas.
Wow. So do you have like events that go on like pretty much like every month, or?
We don't have that many events because they're very time consuming to put on. That's why those are our big things. We do a fall fundraiser every year. That's our big fundraiser for funds for the year. We're very grassroots because we don't take government funding. There's a different type of reporting that you have to do when you take government funds. And because these are high school students who may or may not have an adult in their lives, we make it as simple as possible for them to get whatever they need. So everything comes in as private donations, grants, no government funding.
No. Tell me a little bit more about the prom closet thing.
So that is the first weekend in March. Zappos actually used to store the dresses for us, but when Amazon bought them, we lost our storage. So we had to trick or treat for a free warehouse space because we're a nonprofit. And Thomas and Max stepped up to that challenge.
Oh, wow.
And lent us a warehouse because 5,000 gowns takes a lot of room. It's not like pants. It's poofy and fluffy, and they need to be hung.
Right. You can't just like stack them on top of each other.
Yeah, so they're being stored. They're now unworked. We size them. So when the student comes into the courtyard of Zappos, it's amazing. There's a row of red, a row of blue, of these beautiful sparkly gowns, and each student gets a personal shopper. The students that we typically service are not used to shopping in department stores. So a lot of them don't even know what size they wear. So having a personal shopper is the highlight that can give them another affirmation about, hey, red is your color. Aww. This style looks great on you. And we have volunteers that will only volunteer for that event because they're busy year round, but it means so much to them. And it is life-changing when you see that student stand in front of the mirror about 2 inches taller and just glowing, because we all know when we look good in the mirror.
That sounds so fun. That sounds like something I want to do with you guys next year now.
Yeah, you should.
Mark it on my calendar. So what are the present goals of the organization?
So food is our biggest expense. So raising enough funds to provide the students what they need. The food that we distribute to the schools, so we distribute every week. We have a driver that delivers the food on Thursday and Friday, whatever they order from us. We send out a newsletter at the beginning of the week, and they click on the link and order. There goes about 4,000 cases of each of the items that we distribute to the schools in a school year. So cup of noodles, raviolis, the miniature raviolis, all the microwavable things. Right. That costs us about $170,000 a year. Wow. Each holiday meal runs $50,000 for those 2,000 boxes for each of the holidays.
So $50,000 for Thanksgiving and $50,000 for Christmas.
And then another $170,000 for the product that we deliver to the schools directly. Then we also make family meal bags. So for the students that are head of household, The youngest was 8 when she started taking care of 4 younger siblings and an ailing grandparent. Food security helps take one load off of their shoulders, which are small, and they have big burdens.
Right.
We have students being dropped off at grandparents on fixed income. Grandma eats very little and she's got a fixed income, and all of a sudden there's this teenager in her house that's eating everything in the fridge and part of the furniture. And then the students that are truly homeless, a lot of them will couch surf, and they can survive like that for years. They'll just stay from friend to friend. So some of the places will give them, a bed, but not supply them with anything else. But if they take a bag of groceries home and contribute to the household, that gets them a little extra rent on the couch.
Right.
So if we get the food donated for that, that definitely helps. But if we have to purchase that, that's an added expense. So that's a large part of our budget, operating costs, which we have a very low staff. There's only 7 of us, and the food. That's where the money goes mainly.
And so the food thing is like the biggest goal to focus on for you guys?
Food is the biggest thing, and then hygiene items is very important. Imagine being a hormonal teenager in the desert without deodorant, or things that make you stand out, because as a teenager, you're a little closer to it than I am. Invisibility was the thing. So if you are a girl and you don't have a bra in the wintertime or a jacket, you're going to stand out. If you're wearing the same clothing for a week, you're going to stand out. If you smell, if you don't have feminine hygiene, all of those simple things that when you get dressed in the morning you don't think about. You just grab your deodorant, you grab your feminine product, you grab your comb or whatever it is. They have to think twice about. And everything they own is in their backpacks.
Wow, that's crazy. Like you said, we don't think about that. I have a box of Bath and Body Works stuff I want to bring you guys.
We will take it.
Take like lotions and soaps and stuff.
Especially those girly things.
Yeah.
They're just the added touch. They're like gold. So. We'll take them. And actually, they've become one of our community partners. So the Miracle Mile stores, the manager over there is a fan of Project 150 and a community supporter. So she helps out. And that's my favorite store. So it's like a big girl candy store for me. So
awesome. What has the growth and the development been like over the years?
We were able to add some components, especially this past year. We had a new executive director come in that I'm totally excited about. So one of the things that we were able to do this year is CSN put in a walk-in cooler for us. Ooh. So what that means for us is that we can take advantage of some of the food rescue programs that we were not able to before. Because if a store says, hey, we have some extra groceries, can you pick it up? We had to take everything, perishable, non-perishable, without refrigeration. That wasn't even a consideration for us. But now that we have the walk-in cooler, we can take advantage of that and provide more nutritional items for the family. The day that they were installing that, Amazon Fresh called me and said, would you like a 3-door refrigerator? So we were able to put that up in the boutique, so that worked hand in hand to, again, provide more nutritional items for the family. The other thing that we added this year is a academic center from 3 to 5 that we can offer life skills and tutoring. So instead of just being a Band-Aid, here's some food, hope you survive till next month, see you then, we can give them some life skills. We've done motivation, we've done FAFSA, we've done job skills. Around Veterans Day, we had a military career day. We had veterans come in and talk about their experiences in Vietnam. And I read an article not too long ago about the difference between 2 students from horrific circumstances getting out. Was this one just a slug and this one, was highly motivated? And the difference was that the student that got out had resources. And you can read any success book in the world, and there was always that one teacher or the librarian or the lady at the grocery store or the neighbor, somebody who was an influence in their lives, and it stuck. So if we put enough influences in their lives and resources and show them ways to get out, that's going to make all the difference for them doing that next step. And these kids are highly driven and motivated. I mean, they're going to school in less than wonderful circumstances. They're going to school hungry. We had a counselor come and shop for his summer school student. The boy had walked to school barefoot because his shoes were too small, but he knew he had to get to summer school. It's 90 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning. If he had tried to walk home, he would have had 2nd and 3rd degree burns on his feet, which is a problem for some of these students when they're out on the streets, getting sunburned and very burned because of the nature of our city. And we also have a huge human trafficking problem out here. So the police have told me that it's actually more lucrative to sell children than drugs. So the drug dealers are now becoming human traffickers.
I guess you can hide kids in plain sight if the person knows what they're doing. Drugs you have to hide in something.
So we really, really want to keep these resources in their hands.
No, that's amazing. That's very vital, and it definitely is going to have a huge impact on their well-being and their future. So I'm glad to hear that you guys have those resources that you can offer them. That answers the next question. Would you say that has been the most effective resource or program that you guys have been offering now that you're able to offer that?
Well, the fact that we've grown from one school to all the schools in the district, that's a big growth. The fact that when I started, I believe we had 4 employees, we're up to 7, so that we can develop more programs and be more creative when you're not overworked and trying to do everything. So that was huge in helping us achieve milestones. Obviously the next step would be to have housing for students. There right now is presently only pretty much one place. The Help of Southern Nevada has Shannon West Home for Homeless Youth, and they just increased their beds to 200 this year. Well, 200 beds, we dealt with, our numbers were 2,800 registered homeless high school students last year. So where are these 2,800 kids going to go?
Right.
They can't go to a homeless shelter because they're for 18 and older.
Really? They put an age limit on that?
Yes, and that's where the predators go. It's not safe. So where do they go? They couch surf. They ride the bus all night. They'll sleep at the schools on the roofs. They're resourceful. They want to stay in school, but there's not places for them to go. There's drop-in centers. For example, Street Teens is open from 4 to 10, but at 10 o'clock they put them back out on the street. They can give them a hot meal and let them take a shower and let them use the computers and call home or whatever they need to do. But at 10 o'clock, they go back out in the street. And the one thing that had the biggest impact was she was showing me where they check in the students. So when they come in, they check in here. And this room is where we put their weapons. They check in their weapons. And I had a very similar look to that on my face. And she said, well, they're armed. They sleep on the streets.
Right.
And that's impactful.
Yeah, you don't think about having to need to,
And where does help actually help, and when does it hurt? I mean, on paper it would sound like, hey, we'll just get this big house and we'll put all these kids in it. Well, that would be a drive-up kid thing. I mean, every predator in the world would be out in the parking lot, so you need security, there's mental health issues with being out on the street. There are resources that these students need that it's not just a bed. I have a lot of people that say, well, if they wanted to get a job, they could get a job, or just let me at them and I'll talk to them. But I can, people think this age group, they should be sprinkled with holy water, but they don't get difficult in a vacuum. Somewhere along the line, an adult hasn't done their job for them. And when the one person that's supposed to have your back has put you out on the street, what do you do with that? You're not a homeless veteran. You don't have life skills. You don't have life experience. And that cortex that gives you reasoning doesn't develop till 21. So you don't know what you don't know, and you don't have the resources to deal with what's been handed you. So it really is a tough dilemma for them.
Right. And I'm glad that you brought up mental health, because that's one of the things that I like to talk about and make sure to find a way to bring it up whenever I'm doing interviews with people, because the topic is very important for me. And I see the issue being very stigmatized, so I try to, by incorporating it into the conversation, no matter who I'm talking with, I'm trying to destigmatize it. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Do you have any other comments on how mental health has affected these kids, and how have you seen an improvement on their mental health through the program?
We don't handle that aspect of it directly, but again, we work with other agencies so that we can offer them where to go if they need help. We've worked with the Born This Way Foundation, which is Lady Gaga's foundation. She's very big on mental health and all of that. So we've done a couple of programs with her, including her Be Kind 21 campaign that she just ran over the summer. If you do something for 21 days, it becomes a habit. So if you do 21 nice things, you'll get in the habit of being nice and looking outside yourself. And we work with the center, the LGBTQ community. Unfortunately, a lot of these kids come out, they get kicked out. That's a 40% suicide rate. So there's several. It's not just bad kids on the street. It's kids being dropped off at grandparents' doorsteps. It's kids that are head of house. It's kids not getting along with step parents. It's students that sometimes it's safer on the streets than in the foster care program that they've been in. It's a million stories, but it all leads to the same result: them not having the resources or the home that they need.
Right. It's not like there's not an umbrella.
It's not race. It's not zip code. It's not one story. It's unfortunately a societal thing, I think. More of a me generation trying to raise other children and still take their me generation, and it's a number of things, but it results in somebody paying the bill, and unfortunately it's the age group that doesn't have the resources to do it.
Yeah, there's no one-size-fits-all solution because there's so many different reasons that result in these kids being homeless or, disadvantaged. So I'm glad that they have you guys here to at least mitigate that.
Yeah, we're at least, like I said, our lane is the kids still going to school, so if we can keep them there, we're doing our job. So that's what we want to do.
Do you guys work with like the Nevada Partnership of Homeless Youth as well?
So we do work with them if there's something we can partner with together. They're more of the blanket, drug treatment, kids on the street, not in school, things like that. So they're a bigger umbrella than ours, but it's all part of working towards the same problem.
Are there any other, I know you mentioned a whole bunch of organizations that you guys do different things with. Are there any other organizations?
Street Teens, Refuge for Women, several different organizations. So if there's something that doesn't make sense for us, we can regift it to an organization that does make sense for. If we need something, they help us, but that's how the Las Vegas community is. There's a unity in community, so if we work together, then we're not working at opposite ends of the problem. We're working together to solve it.
Right, and that's something I try to perpetuate, through the magazine. Our mission is to combine content, conversation, and community to develop unity. So that's part of the reason why I'm sitting down with you today, so we can
thank you.
Have this conversation.
And one of the ways, like for example, Title I Hope is the one in the schools that helps with bus passes and things like that. They used to help with caps and gowns. So imagine going 4 years homeless, hardships, whatever, you finally graduate, you don't have $75 to $150 to get that cap and gown, you're not walking.
Right.
So they used to help, we did our part. This year we're working together. They gave us the funds that we have, and we are now taking care of all of the caps and gowns for high school students that need them. So again, making it easier for the student, one place to go. Do you need something? We can help you.
Right, and that in itself is a reward for all the stuff that they've gone through, and it's like that they finally made it and they have something to show for it.
Yes.
Slightly touching back on the issue of mental health, how do you and your team deal with the compassion fatigue that comes from helping these kids in need?
As far as like the stress, and we try and take family time. Since we do have a small group, we are pretty tight, and there's some silliness if you walk around the office. We're having a door decorating contest, so whoever wins that will get a day off. Mine has cats on it, so but mine was done first, so I think I get extra points for that. But yeah, so we do little things like that, potlucks. You have to laugh sometimes.
Right. Are there any success stories that you would like to share?
All the time. So we have, of course, the students that went on to graduate and go to college. I had a lady that was bringing us donations for back to school, and she had gone to the dollar store and she had filled up her cart with all of these back to school supplies from the dollar store. And she gets to the checkout. And the young man at the counter says, "Oh, are you a teacher?" And she says, "No, I'm helping Project 150." And he said, "I wouldn't have gotten through high school without Project 150." And he carried all of her items to the car for her.
Aww.
And I hear a lot of those stories. And then in fact, the CSN cooler story I was telling you about, that was one of our students that graduated and went on to a CSN scholarship that helped put that cooler in. So we do get that. We had one student, he works for Men's Warehouse now. He comes and volunteers at the prom closet event, and he's always, he's out there as a mouthpiece for Project 150 and how we've helped him. So anytime a student graduates, that's a success story. And we don't have to hear all of them, but we know they're getting through school.
Right, just hearing any of them is enough.
I'm
to
Facebook
make it.
friends with some of these kids, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
No, it's amazing. It's whenever I talk to people about how if you just give people like opportunity or a hand up, most people want to take that help that they got and pay it forward and everything. Because I always hear people trying to argue, they're like, oh, they just want handouts, and that they don't want to do anything for themselves. And I don't think people inherently are like that. I think that sometimes we need help, and sometimes all we need is just that one opportunity, that one person that's like, here, let me try to get you a little bit out of your situation, give you what you need. And
that's why we don't take government funding, because then we can handle, gosh, my backpack broke this week and rent's due, and my mom just can't afford a new backpack, to I'm living on the street. And those are instructions that the volunteers get. So when we're making food bags, I always explain to them, place the food in the bag, the heavy items on the bottom, because when a person opens a bag and they see the items carefully placed inside the bag, that's a hand up. If everything's thrown in the bag and all jumbled and you're handed that bag of food, that's a handout, and nobody feels good about that experience.
Right, it looks like some thought and care went into it, and that they mattered.
And the items that go into the boutique, all handpicked. The best of the donations go out there, because again, that's our message to them. If it's ripped, if it's dirty, that tells them what they're thinking in their head, because your head talks a lot faster than your mouth. And you can tell yourself the most awful things in the space of a minute that you would never tell anybody else. So if you go out there and you go to look for clothes and you see items that are ripped or torn, that tells you again that you're not worth it. And kids have an innate ability that whatever goes wrong is their fault. If their mom and dad are getting divorced, it's their fault. If they don't have money, it's because they break things. So giving them those positive reinforcements, whether it's a clean boutique that's perfectly merchandised, whether it's a smile at the counter while they're checking them out, that's our mission.
It's just those little things that make all the difference. You guys put so much work into things. So how can people in the community help support you guys and get involved?
So they can volunteer, they can donate, they can join our social media and share posts. People think that it has to be big and grand gestures in order to mean something, but I have people that just share my posts about when we're doing events and stuff. That really helps. We have volunteers that come and give an hour of a time. We have volunteers that come for one event a year, but then they'll tell other people about it. So it's not always a $10,000 check that makes a difference. It's a lot of the little things put together that make that.
Here, hour there.
Exactly.
There.
There's always something to do here, and we want it to be meaningful and fun for them. But there's a lot of work to be done, and we have a small staff, so we will take you.
Do you ever have groups come out, or let's
a lot
say
of times
business?
we have lots of business
Some volunteers together.
Absolutely, we have a lot of companies that come out and volunteer. We can do team building and make it kind of fun. Holidays, and we have companies that come for just the holiday meals and pack the boxes. Or just the prom closet, or they will spend one day a month for a couple of hours. Nellis Air Force Base, when they have a free Friday, they'll send a group of 4 or 5 guys, and they're usually tall, so I make them do all the stuff on the tall shelf. So yes, we do have a lot of regular companies, and then companies that come, conventions. We've had conventions come into town. What can we do? They've assembled hygiene kits at their convention center, 300 or 400 people giving back to the community while they're here. We've had teams come from out of state on a bus. Hey, we're going to be there for one day, and we heard about your organization. We want to help. They come in and volunteer, and then they take their stories back, and We have, and then they'll just ship random donations to us from Missouri, and we're like, thank you. So
you
yeah,
have pretty far reach as far as like people knowing about you guys.
I'm sure out of sight, out of mind, but while they're here and they're helping us, we love that.
Fantastic. Do you guys ever get like the casinos giving you guys the hygiene products that like are going to be otherwise thrown out?
Yeah, I think they're kind of phasing out of that now and going to dispensers, but
I saw that.
yeah.
Which makes me happy because I'm very,
Yeah.
environmentally savvy and aware of like, the plastic crisis.
But they do help us, but they help us in other ways. So for example, the WIN just finished their Socktober drive that they do for us every year. So they collected like 11,000 pairs of socks for us. That lasts us all year, being able to give a student 7 pairs of socks a month, versus we don't have anybody doing that for underwear, so we can only give them 3 pairs a month, which, if you think about it, 3 pairs of clean underwear a month is tough.
Right.
But
especially if you don't have some place to wash your clothes.
But a lot of the Cosmopolitan comes here regularly, donates. Circus du Soleil has been awesome. Yeah, we work a lot with the hotels. It is that thing where we're one community and there's a lot of great organizations and everybody's asking for a piece of the pie. They're all worthy. So we are grateful for any help that we have. One thing that the Wynn Hotel did for the past few years too is they had a luncheon with some students. And I remember last year they had this luncheon, and you know how glitzy and glamorous the Wynn Hotel is. And the kids were so fascinated by the fact that they had a person that their job was to replace the mosaic tiles in the floor, because as people walk by and the heels get stuck, they have to be replaced. And they took them around to all the department heads and introduced them. So they went to the floral department and the catering and banquet and blah, blah, blah. And there was a lot of different ethnicities. Kids are in their neighborhood. They know what they know. And they got to see all of these heads of these departments in this very glamorous, expensive looking hotel. And they were sitting at the lunch table, and there was one girl, there's always the one that's a little bit louder than the others. And she looked around at all her friends at the table and she said, "You know what? Someday we can work here." And she said, "No, wait. Someday we can be bosses here." And that had an impact on her. And again, that's another, resources that you put in front of them where they see possibilities.
It's that exposure you're giving them. I love it. So as far as donations go, food and hygiene products and clothes?
Food, hygiene, clothes, gently used, age appropriate. Obviously, we can't take the gun logos. Money never goes out of style. That allows us to do more for them. Volunteering, sharing posts.
Do you like getting gift cards to any specific stores?
So gift cards are really good for teens because sometimes they have sizes that we can't accommodate. For example, 4 years ago, we got a pair of size 18 shoes in as a donation, and the kids thought it was funny as heck, and they wanted to hang them in their room. I had 2 students come in this year that were size 18 shoes. I don't know what they're eating this year, but they weren't that big, a student, but they just had big puppy feet. Size 18 shoes are not able to buy off the shelf. You have to specially order them. And we did get a donation in of size 18 shoes that were purchased specifically for them. And as the boy is putting them on, the mom is just mouthing over his head, thank you, because every time she went to buy shoes, it's $100.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So, they come in all shapes and sizes, and they all have their own sense of style. So having a wide variety out there for them is really, really important, so that when they come next month, they see stuff that they haven't seen the month before.
And are there any variations in types of donations that you need throughout the year, like specific clothes for summer or winter, or certain foods for parts of the year?
For clothes, it's good to have seasonal, just because we have this building and we're playing Tetris all the time to keep space. So we don't have, look how hard it was for us to find poofy dress space. So summer clothes in the wintertime, we would rather use that space out there that we have limited for items that they actually can need that can keep them safe and warm. So jackets and hoodies. Those little fleece blankets, they love them because that's theirs. If they're couch surfing, they can take that from place to place. So just those personal items that they can take with them, like little blankets. Nobody thinks twice about a high school student with a little blanket in their backpack. We have a crochet group that does little washcloths for them. They fly off the shelf because that's theirs. No matter what house they're at, that's their washcloth. So yeah, seasonal items are very good. And again, we have those seasons. We start with the scholarships and then the prom, and then the back to school drives run June through July. Back to school shopping's in August, and then the holiday meals. So throughout the year, food is always the biggest expense. Used clothing, men especially, because men are hoarders and they don't give up their clothes as easily as women do.
I did an interview with Cheryl from Street Dogs, and she helps the homeless who have their pets that are living with them on the streets, and she mentioned that, and I learned about that recently, about how it's really hard for her to get clothes for men.
Yeah, when we get donations from men, typically a lot of times they'll clean out their closet of their old suits, which is great for prom. We have a few out there for interviews and for church. Okay. But that's not what they wear every day.
Right.
The
Can't
jeans
go to school wearing
and shoes, tennis shoes, you know. Yeah, so we get the dress shoes donated, you know, the worn dress shoes. Boys need tennis shoes. They need to be able to run. They need to be able, they can't even take PE if they don't have tennis shoes. So tennis shoes, those everyday items, those are what we need.
Okay. And then is this the only drop-off location, or do you have other spots throughout the city?
So if you go to our website, there's a map, and there are drop locations all around the valley. These are actual businesses that collect for us, and they call us when they're full. So we have like Shannon Orthodontist, Pasari Salons, different businesses. Some of them are open on the weekends and evenings to make it really easy. This is our only volunteer center. We do have volunteer centers, volunteer events from time to time off-site, but this is where the bulk of the work is done. Anybody who would like to receive our newsletter can go to our website, www.project150.org, sign up as a volunteer. I send out an email about once a week with volunteer opportunities for special things. Volunteer hours are here Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, but if we need extra hands, I'll put that out. And I also like to stay connected to our volunteers, because if they don't hear from us a year from now, they might be saying, there was that really great organization that worked with high school students and I can't remember the name, and I won't let that happen.
Right. What are some ways that people can help the youth and the schools in their community to address the issue of homeless and disadvantaged teens?
Be aware. I know when I started, my daughter was hitting high school. She just turned 18. The homeless can be invisible, and if they're invisible, nobody wants to help them. So when you walk past them in the store and they're in the front of the store and you don't say hi or smile at them, that's dehumanizing. Now my daughter is the first one. If we walk past a homeless person, she will look at me and she will wait for me to say it, or she'll say, hey, do you need a sandwich? Can we bring you back out a sandwich? And so we'll go in and buy a sandwich and take it out. So it's not giving money, it's giving something warm, it's acknowledge that this is a problem, because then together we can work to fix it.
Right.
It's not because they're difficult teens. It's not because they need to be sprinkled with holy water. There is a problem, and as soon as we acknowledge it and work together to fix it, we can come to some commonalities on this.
Right. What you said reminds me of this picture I saw of this, homeless person on the corner with a sign that said, "At least smile," because everyone's like trying to look away, avoid eye contact, because they think that automatically makes like some kind of like social contract that's like, oh no, now I have to.
Yeah, I'm
engage.
obligated. Yeah, but they're humans,
right.
And that's the least we can do. We don't have to give them money. There's a whole thing, if we give them money, we don't know where it goes. Don't give them money then. Right. Just acknowledge they're humans. We're all in this together.
Give them a bottle of water, like in the summer if you have it. Or like I have like some old like jackets or blankets from time to time that I'll have in my car, because my friend's always, giving me stuff to donate. So if I'm like driving around and I see somebody that, needs something that I have, I'll give it to them out of my car.
It's the little things that make a difference.
What ways could the education system be improved to mitigate the issues?
That's a bigger conversation. They actually had to pass an assembly bill this year that if a high school student moved from one side of town to the other, that their high school credits would follow them. You would think that would be a given because it's all Clark County, but that was not a given. So imagine being a second-year junior and your family moves from the west side of town to a budget suites on the east side of town. You might lose some credits. That's an uphill battle. with budget cuts, with funding, with 40 kids in a classroom the size of 30. That's a conversation for smarter people than me. I'm going to fix what's in front of me as much as I can. It's a big problem.
Absolutely. I had a conversation with my friend who's a special ed teacher and learned a whole bunch from her on how, like, just that program alone isn't getting the resources that it needs, let alone, the rest of the school system.
Some of the schools have rules. They can't share food. So even if you send an extra sandwich with your student, they could get in trouble for passing that along to somebody. Even if they don't eat all their lunch and would throw it in the garbage, it's actually wrong. We have an unstandardized PE uniform. It's $20 or they fail. We get calls all the time from the schools. They know the student doesn't have any money, but they need $20 for PE clothes, asking us to pay it. If you had a uniform, black shorts, black shirt, that could be handed down from family members, because a lot of these kids have their older brother's outfits. But now we have them put their names on their shirts. So if little Johnny had the PE outfit and hands it down to little Tommy, now they have to cross off the name and write the new name on. These are things that make a student stand out.
Right. They can't just go to a thrift store and get some PE shorts.
Red shorts no, they have to be the ones from the school. So there are ways that we can standardize things that would be very easy. Some schools want them to wear uniforms. Why not have a uniform PE clothes? Why not have uniform things that would make it easier for families? And, a lot of families are a paycheck away, but for the grace of God, if father gets ill or somebody loses their job, it should be easier for a student to stay in school, not layer upon layer of hardships.
Right. And it's like I remember recently hearing a couple instances where somebody out there paid a couple $1,000s to the school's lunch debt, and after I heard about that a couple times, I can't remember what city it is, but it some city out there is a parent or some school district out there in the country is trying to ban outside payment of the lunch debt, so that only the people who owe this debt can pay it off. And it's just like, these are hungry kids, and you're just making
put the humanity back into it. Yeah,
right. Like, we're going out of our way to make things harder for people. If someone wants to help, let them help.
Well, and because a student is at school doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get a free lunch. There is it's free or reduced based on income.
Right.
Again, if you're a homeless student, you don't have an adult to fill out that paperwork. Then Title I Hope did the funding for that. It used to be 40% impoverished at the school got the funding. They raised that to 60%, which affected 55 schools. There's a 20% gap of kids that are no longer eligible for that because they fall in the cracks there.
Right.
So just make things easy for them. They'll stay in school if you make it easy for them.
Right. Are there any other areas of concern that affect or result in higher numbers of disadvantaged youth that we haven't touched on in some way?
I think we've pretty much touched on everything. It's not really any one thing or one area or one side of town. We've been able to supply Tonopah, Sandy Valley, Pahrump, Mesquite with items when they needed as well. We did holiday meals and distributed them out there. We've been able to, every year after we do the prom closet here, we take a small road show to Pahrump, so all those outlying areas have a chance for those students to get nice prom clothes. There's not a lot of shopping experiences in Tonopah, so I actually saw a bridal display in the True Value Hardware in Pahrump, so we want them to be able to, yes, with a wedding dress and everything.
All right.
So,
what a niche.
Getting the resources to the students, that's what we want to do.
Do you guys work with any legislators or work on any kind of legislation that would be related to the issues that result?
Not specifically with the legislators. Again, our lane is with the schools, so we work with the school district. We attend, those meetings. We do our input, but we're not spearheading any of those.
Has the recent homeless ordinance that went through, is that going to affect you guys in any way?
It will affect anybody who's on the streets. I mean, there literally are not that many beds out there. So saying that if they don't, if there's a bed available, I don't know how they're going to police that, because they'd have to call every shelter and every,
Right.
Do you have any beds? And then how are they going to get over there? Are you going to transport them? It's again one of those solutions that looks great on paper, but logistically, we'll see how it goes. Right now we're just hurting them. This becomes a problem in this zip code, we move them to another zip code. We're not fixing anything, but we don't see them anymore.
Right, and it's like if they get pulled over or stopped by a police officer for sleeping in public, it's like you're going to give them a ticket for a fine that they either can't afford, and or you're going to put them in jail.
Which would solve their problem, because they wouldn't be homeless anymore, would they?
Well, how would they pay the fine?
Well, they can just stay there until they earn the money, I guess.
If you can't afford, $700 for rent, how are you going to come up with
$20 for a ticket?
Oh, it's $1,000.
Well, even so, I mean, just
I don't know. I think it's just going to make it harder for them to get out of their situation. So I hope that it acts more of like a deterrent than, just something to round up homeless people off of the street. So, are there any kind of obstacles that you guys face, and how do you guys overcome those obstacles?
Of course, financial is always an obstacle, because we want to make sure that we have enough resources that we never have to say no. So I am very optimistic going into the new year. We got a lot of exposure from James Holzhauer supporting us this year from Jeopardy. He actually got us in People magazine this year, which is a national magazine. That's huge. We're a little grassroots organization. We got an article in People magazine.
I think I saw something about that.
Yeah, so that was huge. And just going into, we've gotten a lot of TV support. We're doing the Great Food campaign with Channel 8 and Smiths right now, so that's getting a lot of play on the news. So financial, and just that whole stigma of teenagers being difficult in adults, and that they deserve what they're getting. I think those two things, especially that attitude, they really need to know that there's a problem, and that if we work together, we can fix this.
What is the current what is the current outlook for the organization going into the new year?
Very good. We've got all these new components in place. We've got new donors. We just hired Veronica Marquez, who is our Director of Donor Relations, so that can help, write grants and things like that. Again, we're doing a James Holzhauer watch party in January, because he's in the Tournament of Tournaments with the 3 top money winners. We'll get a little play on that. We're doing a watch party at the Space with Mark Chinook. So I think that things are looking up. We're going in the right direction with the Academic Center. And being able to offer more for these students, and the cooler. These are going to help next year. They just got here, and now we can start implementing all these great programs and really taking off.
That sounds really exciting. I can't wait to see all the things you guys do next year. What have you personally learned or gained through your experience with the organization?
Just as community outreach manager, I've been able to go out and talk to other organizations and see how we can partner together. And if somebody needs something, I had a phone call. Somebody had a bunch of peanut butter jelly sandwiches that they're making, but they didn't have a home for them. Through the work I've done with the community, I know a couple of organizations. I made a phone call that they'll find a home where they're going to go to good use, and being able to put those puzzle pieces together to work better in the community, that's really exciting for me. And the more people I meet, the more resources that we have, and assets and friends, and that's exciting for me.
It's like, networking with other people.
Yeah, just like I said, connecting those dots, and the dots get bigger.
Building that community solidarity. Are there any last comments you would like to share with the audience, or words you would like to say to the disadvantaged youth out there should they come across this podcast?
Hey, if you hear about us and you need help, give us a call. Our number is 702-721-7150. I would like to invite anybody that's listening to this that wants to see the work we do, come in and take a tour. We love when people come in and see what we do. We're very transparent, and people get excited when they see the work that we do and come and meet us. So I would love for them to do that. Just being involved, get involved somehow. If it's not this, if it's animals, just be involved in your community. That's how the world turns. That's how we all stay on the planet together. So just find a passion and help.
Yep. And that is why our hashtag is hashtag Get in Motion. Whatever you're interested in, concerned about, passionate for, go out and do it.
Peoples, puppies, ponies, whatever it is, just help.
Where can people get more information and otherwise support you guys?
So www.project150.org is our website. Our office is 702-721-7150. We're on the corner of Rancho and Gowan, 3600 North Rancho. Give us a call, shoot us an email, like us on Facebook, join Project 150 volunteer Facebook page, friend me. I'll give you all the information. Stacy Chapter. Just be involved.
Do you guys have any other social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Twitter, hashtag, Instagram. You can see that social media is my strong point, as you can see. You know those Twitter hashtaggy thingies. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's how you reach things further.
Yep.
All right. So thank you so much for sitting down with me and sharing all the information.
Thank you for spending the time learning about Project 150 and our students. They're very inspirational if you get to know them, and hopefully you got to know them a little bit through speaking with me today.
I did, and I learned a lot about you guys, the situation that these kids are going through, and got some ideas on how hopefully either myself or my organization can help you guys out. All right, thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to our Conversations with the Community podcast with Stacy Chapter of Project 150. We hope you've learned a lot about this amazing organization and the work that they do for homeless and disadvantaged high school students out here in Las Vegas and in Reno, as well as learned a lot about the issue in general. And we hope you're inspired to get involved with organizations like Project 150 that help homeless teens and other disadvantaged youth. If you would like to get more involved with Project 150, please check out their various platforms by going to any of the links listed in the description below. Please like this podcast and subscribe to our channel to get notifications for new content. And if you like our content and what we do, please check out our website, mmag.com, and our various other platforms to learn more and get in motion with us. And if you want to support what we do and help us grow, please check out our Patreon community to see the benefits that we offer to our patrons. Thank you so much again for listening. Until next time, I'm Kat from Millennials in Motion magazine. This has been Conversations with the Community, and please remember to be kind and be the change you wish to see.